Hi everyone, join me today as I demonstrate how to turn this photo into this one. We'll be joined by the hilarious Martin from Real Talk with Labsy. You can check out his podcast in the description box below. So to start, I'm going to come in to the tones and I'm going to start off with exposure. I'm actually not going to play with this too much. I feel like it's already pretty well exposed. I do want to raise some of those shadows though, and maybe drop the highlights, drop the whites a little and the black, and then I'll come into the tone curve and I'll pop a little node in the highlight section, drag him up, a little node towards the shadows and the blacks, and I'll just drag that down, and then one right in the center for the midtones, and I like to raise this up. And you can just tweak it from here until you get the effect that you like. Actually think that looks pretty good as is. This is the before and after so far. I'm also going to take the eyedropper tool and just drop it in a white section just to automatically get that to a nice white. So that was that white balance. Down to the HSL. In the luminance tab, I'm going to take his skin tone, so the orange, I'm just going to raise it ever so slightly, maybe to about 15 or so. I'll do the same with the yellows for the microphone. And maybe some reds in there as well, so that'll be part of the skin tone too. This is what we have so far, before and after. And I'm pretty happy with how that looks so far. I'm going to open this up now in Photoshop and we'll work with extending the background. So I'm going to crop this first and foremost. I'm going to make it into a square and I want him to have a decent amount of space above him. So using this grid tool, I kind of want his head directly in the center of that top line. I'm going to press enter and then I'm going to come into the marquee tool over here. I'm going to draw a little rectangle just before his arm ends. I'll press Ctrl T, then I'll hold shift while I drag this out. Next I want to expand the marble tile. Just to get rid of that bench. So I'm going to hit M. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to go to the lasso tool for this one. And I'm going to draw a section like this. I'm going to hit Command T. We are going to, oops, make sure you press Shift. Extend this way. And extend this way as well. And do that again. Oh, nope, I'm actually going to use the marquee tool for this section. I feel like I'll have a little more success this way. Command T. Okay. There are a few ways to do this, but this is the way I'm going to go, only because I want that line to continue being linear and seamless. So I might actually have to raise that a little bit. I'm going to draw just before his arm sort of ends there, Command T, and we're just going to drag this up to again just define that line even more strongly. Command D to deselect. Awesome. And then we'll use a patch tool the rest of the way. So it's going to draw against that line and we're going to blend that all in. Try for the stamp tool as well. Make this much smaller by using the left bracket key. Hold down Option, click to sample, and then just draw. I might actually sample the marble and draw that in. Deselect. And now I just want to clean up this background. So you can't use the patch tool, go over these harsh lines, drag to sort of blend and replace it. It is pretty seamless already, but I still want to play around with this. So what I'm going to do is going to create a new layer by dragging it to that little plus symbol. I'm going to deselect that, and then I'm going to turn this one into a smart object. So command click or right click, convert to smart object. And then what I want to do is go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur until I'm happy with the blend of the background. So maybe too much. I'm thinking right about here is pretty good. So I'll press OK. And then here where it says smart filters, I'm going to click on the white. I'm going to go convert I to invert it, and then press B for the brush tool. It's a black mask, so I want a white, oh, come on now, a white brush, and that way you can reveal what we just did. So I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger by clicking on the square bracket tool, and I'm just going to paint over the background just to make it a little bit more seamless. If I were to paint over him, you'll see the effect it has, so we want to keep it off of Martin. And we're just going over the sections in the back. Okay, and if you do get any on your subject, just go back to the black brush by pressing X and go over his arm or wherever you think he might have accidentally touched. Next, I want to just quickly create a new layer. So I'm going to hit Command Shift Option N, Command Shift Option E. I'm going to zoom in here to the hat where there's a barcode. We're going to try to get rid of these here. And I'm going to draw around it. From here, I'm going to Command Click, press Fill, and then Content Aware. Wow, that was shocking. All right, so that's not going to work. We shall try something different. I'm actually going to go to the stamp tool instead. When in doubt, make it a little bit bigger, sample the black, and just chuck opacity all the way to 100. Jump into the eraser tool and make it nice and small, and just bring back the detail of the edge of that hat a little. Option and click to sample and just blend it through. Okay, that's a before and after. From here we can do a really quick skin retouch, nothing drastic. I take my patch tool and just draw over any blemishes, any harsh lines. So we have this really warm patch, this really hot patch of highlights here. I'm going to take my stamp tool, I'm going to drop the opacity, drop the flow a little, and then we're going to sample some less than hot skin, so something that's not as bright, and we're just going to gently paint into it, just like so. I am now going to do a bit of dodging and burning, so I'm going to just quickly group all of these layers. Command G after I selected them all, and we can just see the before and after so far. I'm going to grab a curves layer, take it from the midtones, drag it up slightly, and then I'll hit Command I to invert, press B for the brush and make sure that the white is selected, so I'll hit X to activate the white one, the white brush, make it smaller, and I'm just going to highlight area. Oh, well, we are going to drop the flow to about 33 and just highlighting the areas over his face that are already pretty bright, so we'll let that be our guide. So that's the before and after. It is a little bit too much, so I will drop the opacity to about 55. And then, yeah, subtle but very effective. We'll do another curves adjustment layer, and we're going to bring down those blacks, Command I, and then I'll press B. Okay, super subtle, I love it. I'm going to group these two together by highlighting them and pressing Command G, and then we can see the full effect of our before and after for the dodge and burn. I decided to extend the background even more, just give him a little bit more play with how he can crop it himself. So I've got another layer here, and I'm going to go to Filter, Liquify. From here we can play around with the marble, so basically we don't want it to look so uniform. So I'm going to increase the size of my brush to about maybe 400 or so, and I'm just gonna grab and drag in small increments. So we're gonna make our own pattern in the marble. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. Press OK, and just like that, I am ready to file, save, and then we'll jump back into Lightroom for some final edits. I'm going to jump into exposure and just raise it again ever so slightly, bring up the shadows and drop the blacks. Maybe drop the highlights ever so slightly, introduce a little bit more blue and magenta. Feel like it's more of a true white balance right there. And then lastly, I want to play with his eyes. So we're going to create a mask, a brush, make it a little bit smaller, and I want to draw into his eyes here. Just gonna lighten them up a little. So up with exposure, but not too much. Increase the highlights and the shadows. This is the before and after so far. Maybe just drop into the blues ever so slightly, just to help make it even whiter. Create a new brush, and now paint in just the iris. Okay, from here I'm going to raise exposure, shadows just a touch, the whites, and then we'll drop the blacks, add contrast, add touch of clarity, maybe up to about 3, sharpness, and saturation. And so by the end you should have a little something that looks like that. Actually might reduce something. Yeah, that's way too sharp. Let's bring that down. And the whites. That was overkill. Okay, I feel like that's a bit better now. And there we have our finished edit. before and after, coming out of Photoshop and just adjusting ever so slightly more with Lightroom. Hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, you're welcome to leave a comment, subscribe for more editing tutorials, and we'll catch you again in the next one.